Hello and thanks for joining us again today. We're going to be talking about solar panels. Been asked a number of times, what do we recommend as far as solar panels go with your Nomad PDU? So we're going to look at that specifically today and try to simplify it for you. Because a Nomad can accept regulated or unregulated solar panels. So if you want to know what we recommend as far as a solar panel goes, you can go with a fully regulated solar panel, which has a solar panel like this, or a folding panel, and so on, with a regulator. And if you're going to plug into the regulated input of the Nomad, which is the red input over here, and the red input, okay, that's for regulated charge, maximum 25 amp. So what you need to do is look at the regulator that's connected or you've got with the solar panel, and it's it should be an MPPT. It might be a PMW or something like that, but if you're going to get a regulator, get an MPPT, better quality regulators. So something like a Victron and that type of brand, very good regulator. Maximum of 25 amp, not even 1 amp more. So that'll accept up to 25 amp regulated. So that's going to cost you maybe $300 or $400 on a regulator plus the panel. I don't see any particular reason you have to spend an extreme amount of money on panels. The Nomad doesn't discriminate between a cheap panel and more expensive panel. As far as it's concerned, if it's getting power in, it's just going to do what it needs to do. So me personally, what I use is an unregulated solar panel. This is my panel here. This is got a Japanese coating on it. These are very, very nice, really thin, about 3 kilograms, I believe, 2 to 3 kilograms, really light. As long as you've got space somewhere that you can put a blanket underneath when you're covering it if you're traveling, and don't bend it any more than 30 degrees. So this one here is a 200 watt unregulated solar panel. So when I say unregulated, it's a solar panel on its own that doesn't have a reg. So this panel here, if you have a look at it, that's the connection. It just comes straight off the panel, okay? And then it's got a connection on the end. So I've cut the original connectors off the panel and I've put an Anderson on here. The reason I've done that is obviously a good connection, but I've also set the Nomads up with these adapters. These adapters are available from our partners, so they're eyelets to Anderson, and you're trying to keep the run short. So what we're going to do in this instance is we're going to let the Nomad with an internal MPPT. So the Nomad actually has an MPPT controller inside, so that accepts a straight off panel directly to the Nomad. Maximum 10 amp. So a 200 watt panel or less, nothing more, is typically okay to go into the unregulated inputs of the Nomad, so the red and black poles. Red and black poles, it goes in and it goes into the MPPT controller of the Nomad, and that charges for a lithium charge. We do get a number of questions from people saying, I've already got a panel and I've got a regulator that says do not use for lithium. Now, we don't make solar panels, so we're not familiar with every single panel out there. But again, like I said, if you're unsure about the regulator and it's a 200 watt panel less, just get rid of the regulator and use the MPPT inside the Nomad, because it's a good quality MPPT and you're going to get a max out of it. Now, I know from this solar panel here, and this is what these, again, you would have seen us talk about this, like the power analyzer. I'll connect the power analyzer between the solar panel and the unreg input. So unregulated charge going in, goes into the MPPT, it regulates and then goes to the Nomad and charges it nice and correctly. So what I'm going to do here, now you're not going to get any power from the solar panel because we're inside. So I plug the solar panel into this little power analyzer. You don't have to, but it's just so you understand. And then what will happen is that the analyzer will tell you how much current's coming through. That solar panel we're putting out about 24 or so volt. Now on this tutorial you'll see the spec of this panel, and the max output of this panel is 10 amp. I believe it could possibly get to 11, but I've never seen it. And this is a great panel size panel if you're running a 50 litre fridge and you've got the solar panel every day. Every night the Nomad will be full, and in the morning it'll be about 11.8 volt. It'll be full again the next night. Again. You could do this absolutely every day of the year, which is in fact what I do. So what I've got here is I've got an unregulated solar panel connected to the unregulated solar input, maximum 200 watt panel. This will give me a maximum of 10 amp. So under 10 amp through the inputs here, it's up to you to check it. Don't plug a 400 or 500 watt panel or house panel into the Nomad thinking that it's going to regulate it down. You will get, or electricians sometimes will tell you that the regulator should regulate it all for you. That's not the case. They all have ratings, maximum 10 amp input. It's up to you to check. If you look on the back and it says under 11 volt, sorry, under 11 amp max, and it's between 8 and 32 volt, This will put out 24 volt in an open circuit, and that's fine because the MPPT in the Nomad will take 8 to 32 volt, which is typically for your solar panel. So even a 24 volt solar panel is okay as long as the amp is less than 10 amp. So that's an unregulated solar panel. So this here, again, retail, to give you an idea, this is about 1300 by 800 and about 3mm thick. It's about 3 kilograms. This has got a nice coating on it. It hasn't got that glass shiny mono coating you normally on the folding panels. They reflect more, these absorb more. So this means it gives you better efficiencies. So I'm really happy with this here, and it only weighs a couple of kilograms. The big folding ones are quite weighty now, take up space and can weigh 15 to 20 kilos. So this here, you can get them in 150s and 200s. I like the 200, it works fantastic with a 50 litre fridge, cycles every day, very good and efficient. And these are retail for $300. So you've got $300, you don't have to invest in a regulator. You can use the Nomad's reg. So if you've already got the Nomad, you don't really go spend a heap more on the solar panel. You know, people can spend $2,000 on a solar panel and think it's giving them better quality power, but it doesn't discriminate about the power. It's PV from the sun, it converts it, gives it to the Nomad, to the MPPT, and then it charges the unit. So there's no point going to an expense of spending a few $1,000s on a solar panel. You're not going to get any benefit out of it. You might get some more efficiency, but for an extra couple of $1,000 and you get a half an amp more, I don't think it's really worth it in the long term. So again, solar panels, anything under 200 watt, the simple math is under 200 watt. The math shows it should actually put out more than 10 amp, but you'll find that most panels won't. They'll probably max at about 10 or 11 under 200 watt. 120, 150, 180 watt, no problems with the panel. Just use the Nomad's reg inside. Get yourself an eyelet like these. You can get them made up if you wanted to, but we do have them available like this. And you can just connect it up to the red and black, then connect it to your solar panel directly and let the Nomad's MPPT internally do that for you. Okay, what you don't want to do with a solar panel. If you have an unregulated solar panel like this here, which is unregulated, you don't plug this unregulated into the regulated input. So a lot of people will plug the solar panel like this and say, well, it's only putting 10 amp, that's rated 25. Not the case, it's unregulated. It's going to have pitches and troughs and there's nothing regulating the current charge and amp. So if you plug it in there, you're going to damage the Nomad. So do not plug an unregulated solar panel. So an unregulated solar panel is what I've got here. It doesn't have a regulator on it or connected to it. So solar panel to regulator to Nomad. If it's got a regulator, it goes in here. Solar panel without a regulator, i.e. not regulated, you need to get it regulated. Use a Nomad's MPPT internally. So the solar panels, again, if you wanted to use a 300 watt, 400 watt solar panel, you make sure it has a regulator on it. And you can find a 20 amp MPPT like Victron or 15 amp from Victron, and it will regulate it to 20 amp, plug it in, no problem at all. And if it's got a profile lithium, put on that. If it doesn't have a lithium profile, you can use gel. However, if it doesn't have a lithium profile and it's only a 200 watt panel or less, I would take that control off and just use the Nomad's MPPT. Now this is all in the actual instructions. Again, we go over this time and time again. There's about 8 pages of instructions. We do cover solar off in here as to what you should and shouldn't do. And again, if you've got the solar panel connected and you've got one of these, you're just running the car so there's free from your Nomad when you're driving. You may have a DC-DC set up, and that's fine. When you get to campsite, you unplug your DC or your DC stops working, then you can just plug your solar panel in like that, nice and easy. So this just makes your job easy, and you can set this up how you like. You may want to strap it down, doesn't really matter. Or if you've got cables directly out of the panel, you can obviously cut and strip them. But I've cut the original connectors off this because they don't really suit the Nomad. But Anderson will suit pretty much anything. But again, that's regulated solar panels, unregulated solar panels. The Nomad doesn't discriminate between expensive or cheap panels. It simply looks at the power that's coming out of it, look at the efficiencies. Again, at the end of this tutorial, you'll see a little a snippet of the back of this panel, which tells you what it's got. But again, size-wise, this is a 200 watt panel. It's really small, 1300 by 800, 3mm thick and about 3 kilo. So good value for money at $300. The 150 watt panel is about $250 from the retail partners. They've got this Japanese coating on there, which gives it much more efficiency. Also 3 years warranty on these. So from a money perspective, value for money, these work really well. These are what I use, and we don't have any problems with them. So that's the solar panel, regulated, i.e. has a regulator, and solar panel without regulator. So with regulated solar panels, make sure that it's maximum of 25 amp with the reg, going to the Nomad's regulated input. If your solar panel is less than 200 or less, and it's unregulated, then just use the Nomad's regulator and save yourself some money. You may as well use the MPPT that's in here. It's not a cheap MPPT, so you may as well use it and direct connect it to the solar panel. But no more than 200 watt, no more than 10 amp. That responsibility is on you. Space it in all parts of our instructions. So that's the solar panels. Solar panels are Nomad PDU, and also what do we recommend. We don't have any particular brands that we'd recommend. Well, these ones here are a home brand, smart home group, designed and company owned in Australia, and these work really well with the Nomad. We've been testing for some time and we haven't had any problems with it at all. So if you need to get these, you can go through our partner channel and get them from them. If not sure, come through us and then we'll send it through the partners anyway. So no matter where you are in Australia. So that's solar panels, your Nomad PDU, and what we recommend, and talking about the reg and unreg. So we'll talk again soon. Look for more tutorials. We're going to do an out-of-box one now very shortly with all of our new kit that we've got. So any questions you've got, send it to contact@nomadpdu.com.au, and we will talk again soon. Thank you.